It's sand. I know, it sounds completely insane, but literal dirt is the foundation of a $70 billion shadow mafia that is quietly taking over everything. You're probably thinking, how is sand the reason the global economy is quietly panicking? Let me put it this way. When powerful people need to hide a massive systemic scandal, like, say, a new list of Epstein files dropping, they don't just ask the media not to cover it, they pull a distraction. They suddenly start saber rattling and threatening a war with a foreign country so the entire world looks the other way. Wall Street is pulling that exact same maneuver right now. They are aggressively waving Nvidia, Bitcoin, and gold in your face. Those aren't just investments anymore. They are financial weapons of mass distraction. They want you obsessing over the AI bubble and crypto charts because it hides the real heist. They are aggressively hiding the only physical asset that is actually running out. Because if retail investors realize what is happening to the base layer supply chain, the entire housing and tech market collapses. I was meticulously analyzing fractional real estate yields and throwing money at tech ETFs when I found out about a massive black market that was literally stealing the ground those investments were built on at gunpoint. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how the greatest financial distraction in history is being pulled off, who is actually pulling the strings, and the only viable way to invest before the physical world completely runs out of its most essential building block. Look, I didn't just stumble onto this by reading a Wikipedia page. 3 years ago, my husband and I thought we had it all figured out. We dumped a massive chunk of our savings into a boutique commercial real estate build. 6 months in, construction completely halted. Our contractor told us they couldn't source aggregate. Prices had quadrupled overnight. We lost $40,000 in holding costs and fees before we had to pull the plug. That burn sent me down a rabbit hole. I realized we weren't just victims of bad timing, we were collateral damage in a global resource war. Let's start by exposing why everything you've been told about our infinite resources is a scam. The biggest myth they feed you is there's sand everywhere. Look at the Sahara. I believed it too. When my contractor said we had a sand shortage, I literally laughed. But here is the terrifying reality. Desert sand is useless. The wind erodes it into smooth, round spheres. If you try to mix it into concrete, it slips apart like marbles. To build cities, make glass, and manufacture the silicon microchips powering this entire AI revolution, you need jagged, angular sand from rivers, lakes, and oceans. And we are consuming 50 billion metric tons of it every single year. According to the United Nations Environment Program, that is enough to build a wall 90 feet wide and 90 feet high around the entire planet every 12 months. But here's what they don't tell you. The Earth cannot replenish it fast enough. And when demand outpaces a legal, highly regulated supply, a shadow economy takes over. Welcome to the sand mafia. This isn't a metaphor. In India alone, the illegal sand trade is estimated to be worth hundreds of millions of dollars. They operate with absolute impunity. They bribe local officials. They use heavy machinery to rip the beds out of rivers, destroying the local ecosystems, and they violently silence anyone who gets in their way. And here's the kicker. The massive real estate conglomerates and tech giants buying this aggregate look the other way. They wash the illicit supply through complex supply chains. Your 401k, loaded with these mega cap developers and tech companies, is profiting off this exploitation. The lifestyle industrial complex wants you completely blind to this. They sell you the dream of the pristine glass condo and the newest AI gadget, completely hiding the environmental collapse required to build it. They tell you just to invest in index funds and wait 40 years. But what happens to those index funds when the physical constraints of reality hit the balance sheet? Let me show you the graveyard of people who ignored this. In Indonesia, over 20 dozen entire islands have literally vanished off the map since 2005. Gone, dredged out of existence to build up the landmass of neighboring wealthier countries. In Jamaica, armed gangs stole an entire white sand beach overnight. 500 truckloads of sand vanished. But wait, it gets worse. You think this is just a developing nation problem? In the United States, the fastest growing regions are depleting their local aggregate reserves at a catastrophic rate, forcing them to truck sand in from further away. Sand is heavy. The transportation costs destroy profit margins. This is the invisible tax driving up your housing costs. This is why the 40-year plan is a trap designed to keep you working until you die, because the cost of the physical world is compounding much faster than your 8% index fund returns. Here is a controversial take that goes against 99% of mainstream finance advice. The biggest threat to the green energy and AI supercycle isn't government regulation or interest rates, it's sand. Solar panels require highly purified silica sand to make glass. The semiconductor fabs turning out chips for ChatGPT, they require the highest grade of high-purity quartz. The demand is absolutely skyrocketing, while the supply of legally accessible high-grade sand is plummeting. Wall Street knows this. They are quietly consolidating supply chains while telling retail investors to keep buying the overpriced tech stocks at the top. They are profiting from your distraction. Before I reveal the most important step, the exact strategy my husband and I used to flip this script, pull our money out of vulnerable assets, and actually position ourselves ahead of this crisis, I need to warn you. If you try to play this like a standard commodity trade, the market makers will absolutely slaughter you. You cannot just go open a brokerage account and buy a barrel of sand. Let me show you the graveyard of retail investors who tried to day trade resource scarcity and got wiped out by institutional algorithms. Here is how you actually escape the matrix. You don't try to out-trade the cartel. You invest in the physical solutions that the cartels can't touch. Step 1. We started tracking private equity flowing into building material alternatives. The smart money is terrified of the sand shortage. They are pouring billions into companies developing desert sand binding technology, chemical processes that actually allow us to use the Sahara. They are funding massive concrete recycling plants. You look for the publicly traded industrial companies acquiring these patents. Step 2 is the bottleneck play. The common mistake everyone makes is trying to invest in the end product, the house or the tech company. Instead, you look at the infrastructure required to move the heavy materials, railroads and specialized shipping logistics. As local sand dries up, it has to be moved further. The people who own the transport routes become the ultimate toll collectors. Step 3, stop buying into the illusion. We completely divested from regional real estate developers who didn't have vertically integrated supply chains. If a company doesn't control its own raw materials in 2026, they are at the mercy of a black market they cannot control. It's not just a supply chain issue. It is a fundamental rewiring of global wealth. The era of cheap, infinite building blocks is over. Here's what we covered. The 70 billion sand mafia is real. It is throttling the global supply of the most essential building block on Earth. And Wall Street is using tech and crypto as a massive distraction, so you don't notice. The 40-year passive plan assumes the physical world will stay cheap. It won't. If this helped you see through the distraction and you want to stop being collateral damage to these invisible monopolies, hit like and subscribe.